The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some raw magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
It is episode 74 of the Warren and Bradley Show.
Are we doing that again?
Coming at you raw and uncut. This is actually a little bit different Warren and Bradley Show episode. I don't know how much I've talked about this in the past, but to give you a little inside baseball on the way the show is made, Warren and I did not plan much before an episode. I would go through, I'd look for celebrity news, and, you know, throughout the week I'd write things down on my little notepad on my iPhone so I'd know things that I wanted to talk about, and if I had a street freak or some sort of segment that we wanted to bring up, and Warren would have something he'd want to talk about, but it was sort of freewheeling, freestyling, seat of the pants kind of thing. And so we would record and we would get, I don't know, maybe 70, 80 minutes, depending. And then I would go through and painstakingly edit every single thing. I would take out any long, awkward pause in the conversation, any parts of us like, I would even, to be helpful to Warren, try to take out some of the likes that he would insert into his conversation, even though I couldn't get all of them. And I don't think I'm quite as bad as saying like as you are, but I'm pretty bad myself. I would go through and take every segment, and I'd have to trim it for length. I would trim it to make us sound like less idiotic, like see, and I'm not going to edit this out now. And then it would take me hours and hours and hours, hours and hours to do this every week.
During that time, I would be doing something else.
Yeah.
Not thinking about the show at all.
Watching the NCAA tournament or something.
Yeah.
And so I started to get a little burnt out on it.
Yeah.
And so now what we're going to try to do is to be uncensored and uncut. Basically, we're just going to be talking as usual, but we're going to try to pay a little more attention to segment breaks, to the length of segments. We're going to try to stay focused more. And all I'm going to do is I might still be trimming for length a little bit, but I'm not going to edit anything in the middle. Everything you hear is what was actually said.
Oh, it's nerve-wracking. It's almost like being live.
It is kind of live, and I was always a little worried about it because we're not professional broadcasters.
What?
Well, I didn't study communication in college. I don't think you did either.
Although you've become quite the expert at editing audio.
I can edit audio well, actually.
Yeah. You developed a skill.
But now I've just thrown that skill out the window because I don't need it for the show anymore. So.
Well, last week after we recorded, you looked a little downcast.
Yeah.
And you looked at me and you're like, maybe we should just stop doing the show.
I was going through a dark period, and I was thinking, for the amount of work I was putting into it,
you looked really sad.
It seemed kind of like a thankless task a little bit, but I think this way it's gonna be a lot easier for me to edit the shows and get them posted, and it'll stop being a chore and just more of a fun thing, because I like sitting here every week
it's nice to have a nice conversation.
It's good. I need some sort of social interaction with people.
Yeah, you don't really get out much.
No, I didn't go out at all this weekend again. I just stayed at home.
Yeah.
I had a tragedy in my Minecraft world.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, my God. So I wasn't able to record my newest episode of Minecraft, so I was trying to... There was a big snafu.
Did something happen within the game? Like some zombie sheep attacked you or something?
I lost a lot of my booty, and it was hard to reboot.
Did another player come into your game and steal it?
No, I fell in lava.
You fell in lava?
Yeah. After hours and hours of trying to mine quartz ore. For those of you who are new to
So the mining of quartz ore is just you doing one repetitive thing over and over and over again?
Well,
like hitting the mine quartz ore
button? We don't want to get too much into this, but if you want to get the real details, you can go watch the Bradcraft channel on YouTube. But basically, there's a alternate dimension called the Nether in Minecraft.
Yeah.
And there are certain ores that can only be gained by going to the Nether. And the Nether is a very dangerous place filled with like zombie pigmen and floating gas bags.
This is like underground?
Nah, it's a different dimension, but it looks kind
Holy
of
crap,
underground.
I didn't know about this element. Wow.
Yeah. You have to go through a weird little portal and everything. And there's lava everywhere. And basically, I had journeyed for forever in the Nether, gathering this quartz that I need to complete my mansion that I'm making in my Let's Play series.
Yeah.
And I had stacks and stacks of it. I had all my fancy diamond enchanted tools that I was using that took forever to get those and to gaining levels so I could enchant these things. And then at the very end, as I was about to go home, I had all the quartz I needed. And I was climbing this ladder, and I peeked my head up, and a skeleton went, ha-ha, and shot me, and I fell just half a mile into a thing of lava, and I couldn't
survive that.
I couldn't survive that. And then when you die, all your inventory scatters everywhere, but since it was in lava, it all burnt up.
That's brutal.
It was horrible.
I want to make sure when you're playing this game, though, I don't want this to turn the same thing that the podcast apparently turned into, which is just like labor-intensive time
I
in
turned
front of a
everything
screen
into that, Warren.
that you don't enjoy. Are you still enjoying the game?
I do, but then, it was the kind of thing where this happened, and I was like, I freaked out. My little brother was online with me at the time. We were playing on our server together.
Yeah.
And I went into this litany of cursing that I think my poor innocent little brother has never heard the like in his entire life. And then I was just like, ugh, and just turned the game off. I had to go have a stiff drink and sort of get myself together.
Did you really? Did you pour? Okay.
No.
So I pictured you like going to the like window and looking out of our bumtown and like pouring some whiskey in a shot glass.
Wearing
and, like,
my wife beater.
Yeah.
No, I don't actually keep any alcohol in my house. But anyway, I was severely deflated and did not even feel like playing the game ever again. But then I'm required to do so because I do these Let's Play videos. But again, nobody watches the Let's Play videos, so I'm not actually required.
You're not. I want to emphasize that to you.
The only thing that requires
required.
me is me thinking that I'm required. It's the same thing I do with everything. With the podcast, I didn't have to go and edit through every single little thing.
Yes.
But I make myself do it because in my mind that makes it better, but I don't think anyone cares. Nobody notices. Nobody gives a shit but me.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. And I'm just trying to let things go a little bit. Just be like, okay, Warren paused there. I said, I'm going to leave that in. That's fine.
Yes.
Nobody notices but me. It's okay.
Yeah. And make sure you rechannel that energy or take that time and do something you enjoy.
Yeah. Well, see, these are things...
Initially, they're rewarding, right?
These are things that I enjoy, but then everything I enjoy, I turn into a
job.
task.
Yeah.
And it's this weird perfectionist thing that doesn't penetrate every aspect of my life.
No.
I don't know why. If I could
like your professional
apply
life?
that to other things, it might actually be of benefit instead of things that don't matter at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to some people at work about that, about our experiences in school and in college and whatnot.
Yeah.
And how everything I had learned in college was completely useless, but I found interesting.
Yeah.
And other people, of course, I work with like medical professionals, and they had always, taken all these classes they weren't terribly interested in, but
they were useful.
They were useful. Like they learned something in college, and they still apply that to what they do every single day.
I took a class about the fucking Beatles when I was in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're going to be a mechanical engineer or something like that, most of what you learn in college is completely pointless.
But if I were going to go back to college, I would definitely learn something useful. Would you?
A skill, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have all this energy that you're like pouring into these things, like productive energy, just think if you had like...
I know. But see, that's what I can't seem to figure out is how to force myself to pour that energy, because I can be insanely focused and detail oriented and really hard on myself, but I don't apply that to anything that actually matters.
Yes.
Yes.
You need to channel that energy into something productive. Are you still doing your like push-up and sit-up regimen?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
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 That's sort of productive, right?
I guess. And that, again, but it's also another thing that doesn't really matter that much. It's not like during the summer I'm going to be hanging out on the glorious beaches in Bellingham and like paparazzi snapping pictures. Ooh, look at Brad's beach body. That's not going to happen.
Maybe it's good for your health, though.
Yeah, I guess.
If you look in the mirror, is there a noticeable difference?
Yeah.
You look like muscly and stuff?
I'm ropey, wiry, you might say.
And without that sort of workout regimen, you're just scrawny?
Well, I've always been thin, and I've been
Thin and slack, maybe?
No, I mean, because my job is physically demanding, and so I've always been wiry, I guess you would say. But I didn't really have a man chest before. Now I've got a bit of a man chest going on. Yeah.
Oh, so it's not just flat. You have, like, pectorals?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And my stomach is still starting to, like, bulge out a little bit.
Oh, like your six-pack?
Yeah. I still need to starve myself so I have no body fat at all. That's the next thing. But I was noticing, I don't know, I mean, I could talk about this for a long time. I don't know if you really want to talk about this, but I was noticing when I had done my little regimen the other day, I was doing my push-ups and my crunches and everything, and then I went and took a shower, and when I got out of the shower, I still had to pump, you know. The muscles were still filled with the blood from the exertion. You know how if you're a
little swollen.
If you're doing a Mr. Universe contest, you don't just go out and start flexing. You have to work out first to get the pump going.
Yeah.
And so I got out of the shower and I went, ugh, and yawned in the mirror, and I noticed on all like my shoulders and my chest, you could see all these striations of the muscle.
Really?
It's weird. You could actually see the like fibrous muscle tissue under the skin, and I went and flexed and almost like burst a vein in my temple when I was doing it. But I was pretty impressed with myself.
Yeah, I know. But sometimes I have concerns about your weird delusions when you look in the mirror, though. You start seeing things that aren't there.
Well, I either think I look really damn good, or I think I look like a freak. So there's no real middle ground going on there.
Yeah, most of the time you probably just look exactly the same.
Probably. All right.
Is that's a good segment length for you? You noticed that you were worried about, you're like, I don't know if we should go on with the segment anymore.
Well, and I was looking at the time, it's like 10 minutes. 10 minutes is about right for a segment.
Oh, yeah, this is good.
So this is
the
stuff that would normally be cut out. But now you get to hear it on the Warren and Bradley Show. So I didn't have a whole hell of a lot of weird experiences this week. Didn't really get out much, actually, and interact with the people. But I had one thing that was kind of weird. You know the kind of truck I have. It's a 2001 Ford Ranger.
Yeah, very standard truck.
Very standard, very common truck.
Yes.
And I was driving the other day, just downtown somewhere, and this man, probably in his, I don't know, late 40s or something, just seemed fairly normal. He was also in a black Ford Ranger.
Oh, yeah.
Of around the same vintage, I would say early 2000s. The only difference is that he had a canopy on the back. He pulled up next to me in a light, and I saw him going, like motioning for me to roll my window down. He looked very excited.
Yeah.
So I rolled my window down, and he yelled out and went, "Hey! Ha, ha, ha!"
Yeah.
And I went, "Okay." And he went, "Truck buddies! Truck buddies, huh?
You guys are truck buddies.
Look at that, truck buddies!"
Yeah.
And I went, Yes, we have the same kind of truck." And he went, "Ha, ha, 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 ha." And he was immensely pleased. Now,
yeah,
I can understand if I were in, I don't know, like a 64 Aston Martin DB5 or something, and somebody else came up in a 64 Aston Martin DB5, there might be a little merp, merp, honk of recognition, like, hey, we got the same car. It is a rare, unique, vintage car. Or when I used to ride a Vespa around, sometimes other people in Vespas would give you a little, hey, it's the same kind of, if you're the motorcycle wave when you're both on motorcycles, because that's like a fraternity. That's a select group. How many fucking early 2000s Ford Rangers are driving around in this country?
Was it the same color?
Same color.
Well, there you go.
What? Come on. Does he do this to every fucking person who drives by in a Ford Ranger?
Well, probably if there are two people driving along and they have the same color, same model and make of car, both people notice.
You do know.
So you sort of acknowledge it.
It's just so everybody who's driving around in a 2008 Honda Civic honks their horn at everyone else who's in a that's like every other fucking car.
Well, I mean, those cars are more common at this point. Your car's more than 10 years old.
Yeah, but I see that body style of Ford Ranger everywhere.
Yeah.
It is insanely common. I think I was looking up sales figures once because I was looking at the cost of replacement parts are insanely cheap for this car.
Yeah.
And I was trying to see, okay, I know that the Ford F-150 was the most popular vehicle sold in America for quite a few years.
I think it's the most popular vehicle in the world.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
And the Ford Ranger was right up there at the time when it was being sold. Like, there were hundreds of thousands of these things out on the road. And I see, I don't know, dozens and dozens a day just driving around Bellingham. I just don't understand. If he has to do this every time, you think
he also pulled up next to you, right, at a light?
Yeah, he actually was behind me, and then he wanted to pull up right next to me
truck
so
buddies.
He could have this
You
conversation.
guys are truck buddies.
We were truck buddies. I'm not going to deny that we're truck buddies, but I don't know. It just seems a little excessive.
Well, I know. I was walking home from work a few months ago, and I noticed a car that was identical to the car I used to own.
Which was that?
An '88 Toyota Corolla hatchback.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah.
Didn't you have a Justy at one point, too? Yeah, the 3-cylinder.
The problem with the Justy was I bought this Subaru Justy hatchback. Mm-hmm. They don't make Justies anymore. It apparently had a centrifugal clutch.
Yeah.
Which is something you might find in a lawnmower, I understand.
Yeah.
And the clutch went out instantly.
Probably had about the same horsepower as a lawnmower.
It did not move very fast, especially when the transmission didn't work anymore. And so I didn't have that car very long. I loved the car. I thought it was adorable, but...
Adorable.
Oh well. It's an adorable little car.
Now, you're not a car person, Warren.
No.
But if you lived in a city where you needed to drive...
Yeah.
And money was not an object, do you have, like, the dream car that you would want to have? Because when we were kids, we used to look at pictures of cars. At least I did.
I used to get Motor Trend magazine.
You'd be like, ooh, look at that Lamborghini Countach,
Oh, yeah, everybody had posters of them
Which
up
is
on
a
the walls.
ridiculous car if you actually look. I saw somebody, I think it was on the UK Top Gear or something, where one of them I think it was little Richard Hammond, had been in love with the Countach when he was a little kid, and so he finally got a chance to drive
it's a useless
an 80s
car.
Countach. He said it was the worst thing in the world to drive around.
It's extremely uncomfortable.
You can't see anything.
No, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
It's just a big engine with you sitting on the front of it. Yeah.
But do you have a car now that you would lust after if you could have any vehicle?
It's interesting.
Are you even aware? You're probably not aware of enough kinds of makes and models.
Well, you see a lot of cars going around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that car looks kind of okay sometimes. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I would probably do I wouldn't get a luxury car. I wouldn't get a Lamborghini
Why not?
or a Ferrari.
If
I don't
money
need that.
was no
I don't
object?
like attention.
Oh, yeah.
And the people who have those cars are just like everyone's turning and looking at them
that's
constantly.
why they have them. Yeah.
That's why they have it. I don't want that. I would probably just get a normal car.
Such as?
I don't know, a Toyota Camry.
Toyota
or something.
Camry. God.
Or a Honda Accord and just drive around.
So boring.
No, maybe an SUV, just in case it snows, and I'd have four-wheel drive.
I kind of prefer the two-wheel drive in the snow. Front-wheel drive, put chains on the front, you can go everywhere. It's light. I notice, what you see every time we have a heavy snow? You see all these Jeeps and 4x4s in ditches because people go, I've got a 4x4.
That's hubris, though, right?
It is hubris. And they just think they can go and do whatever they want. And they weigh 3 tons, so they're just like, sliding around all over.
Oh, yeah, then they just slide right in the ditch, yeah.
If I had a dream car, this is excellent podcasting topic, by the way.
So if you're thinking about getting Brad a car,
yeah.
If you're an eccentric billionaire who likes the show, one of the few people that listen to the show, but you happen to be a very rich person, this is the car that Brad
wants. A huge
wants.
percentage of our listenership is eccentric billionaires, who just give crazy gifts to people for no reason. I know what you mean about the supercar thing. I wouldn't want anything too ostentatious, even though the newer Lamborghinis are apparently, ever since they got bought by Audi, they're engineered a lot better than they used to be.
They still look the same?
They still have kind of that crazy flair, but they actually drive really well and are more practical. I mean, they're not practical. They go 250 miles an hour, but they're like V12s and get maybe 3 miles to the gallon or something. But there's the newest Lamborghini, the Aventador, was reviewed very highly on Top Gear, on the UK Top Gear. But again, it looks like a Lamborghini, it's a little too ostentatious. I used to really like the Mercedes SLS. It was the reissue in the 50s. They had the gull wing.
Okay.
Where the doors opened up like gull wings. And that was a seminal classic sports car from the 50s. It was the fastest road legal car of its time.
I think they have nostalgic commercials from Mercedes where they show that racing around.
Right. And so they did a new kind of version of that's pretty damn cool. But again, that's the other thing too. You park, you pull up downtown in Bellingham in your gull wing Mercedes and the doors open up, everyone would just be like, what a fucking douchebag.
Knock over somebody's bicycle right next to you.
Well, they open up. It won't hit another car next to you. It's engineered properly.
It's not like you have to park in those special spots for vans that have people in wheelchairs.
But if you saw somebody getting out of their car, their gull-wing Mercedes, and their door opened in that way, wouldn't you think they were a douchebag?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they'd be looking for attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about those cars. A lot, your Jaguars, a lot of your Range Rovers. I'm not meaning to attack the English, but the cars are pieces of shit as far as they just break down constantly. They're not built very well, but they're very expensive. And basically, all
Jaguar
you're
is supposedly good now too because they got bought out by somebody.
Yeah, exactly. They got bought out.
Or no,
by
they
somebody-
were owned by General Motors and they sucked, and now they're
Yeah.
owned by some English conglomerate and they're good again,
Well,
supposedly.
supposedly.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like the Japanese cars make a bunch of cars that like last and are
Forever,
really good. And if you want it, like people always used to tell me this, if you want an actually nice car, you just get a Lexus. And a Lexus is like a very nice car, and it's not going to fall apart.
It's
and
just
it'll
a
get
really
you anywhere.
nice Toyota, right? It's made by Toyota.
Yeah, it's made by Toyota or the Toyota Avalon.
There is the Lexus LFA, the crazy supercar Lexus that they only made like 100 of them.
They have like a sports car.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. Maybe I
Paris
would.
Hilton had one or something.
Yeah, maybe I would. Yeah, I'd probably just get like a.
I like the little cars. I like little cars, nimble. Parking is easy. Maybe a little hot hatchback or something, but not like a douchebaggy hot hatchback.
hot hatchback. What is this? The Fast and the Furious? You're gonna like soup up a Civic or something?
No. Well, maybe those ground effects lights on the bottom. Ooh.
Oh, those are cool. I do like it when people take their like Honda Civic and they like pimp it out. I guess they call it 10 years ago, and they change like the Honda logo to like yellow.
Yeah.
And they change some of the trim to yellow. I always think that's a nice look.
The lowered Jetta
Yeah.
with the weird flat paint job, and I just don't get that at all. And the giant spoiler that does nothing on a front-wheel drive car, idiots. When you're putting weight down on the back, if it's a rear-wheel drive car, that makes sense. You have a spoiler on the back, and it forces the rear down,
Yeah.
and you get power from the
Okay,
wheels.
okay, yeah.
When it's front-wheel drive, it
Yeah.
does nothing!
Yeah. It's
Sorry.
just. It's just a decoration.
It's a fucking douchebag badge. That's what it is.
But it's just another decoration. It's just some thing of, like, look how cool my car is. I got this spoiler on
I like
it.
things that are functional.
If you want a functional car, then you'll just get a Camry like me.
Yeah, I guess.
And we'll both just drive around.
So we were worried when we were starting the show whether or not we'd have anything to talk about because we didn't have a lot written down. We've just managed to waste an entire segment talking about
What
cars.
is waste? What are you talking about?
Okay, you're right. You're right. We managed to fill an entire segment.
What is the
with
point of the show?
Amazing insight. There is no point to the show other than us to talk, and I guess that's what we've been doing.
Yes.
And I think that works. I think it's fine.
We're just talking.
We're
That's
talking.
what the show is.
We are talking. Well, now we're not. We're going to take
All
a
right,
break,
sorry.
and then we'll come back with Celebrity Minute. Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. On this week's Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show, we'll start right off with our favorite, Justin Bieber. Looks like the Biebs and Selena Gomez might be back together. Bieber recently submitted a picture to Instagram in which he is pictured shirtless with some sort of strange broom head hairstyle going on, and Selena Gomez is... I think she's trying to look seductive, but she just kind of looks like she's scowling.
Yeah.
And she is sitting behind him with her arms wrapped around his waist while he is working on his computer. He captioned the photo with, "You've been making music for too long, babe. Come cuddle. Her." So supposedly that's what Selena Gomez said to Justin Bieber before she started to cuddle him. As far as I know, Justin Bieber has never made music, ever. So I don't know if that's actually true.
Oh, but this would make you think, right? That's supposed to
He
make
does
people
have a
think
little
that-
keyboard over here.
Well,
Did-
that he's like striving, like
I
with
can't-
like writing notes on paper and like hitting keyboards and stuff, like coming up with songs.
I don't think he does that, does he?
I doubt it. No,
I don't think he even writes the lyrics for his songs.
I'd be really surprised.
He doesn't choreograph his little dance moves. He does nothing. He has a vocal trainer. He has an arranger. He does nothing other than just perform like the little monkey he is. And maybe that's why he bought a monkey. Because he was sick. He's treated like a performing monkey
What?
at all times.
So-
and so then that's some weird sort of, I don't know, subconscious thing where he wants to have a monkey to perform for him. And the monkey's like, bad boyfriend, trying to sing his songs. And he's like, come on. What was the
Wow,
monkey's
that's
name?
a weird theory.
I think it makes perfect
His
psychological
little
sense.
theory. Your theory is that the monkey is his Bieber, and he's
Yeah.
and in this relationship, he's Bieber's management team.
Yes, so he's being controlled all the time, and he resents it. That's why he's been acting out
it's a
lately.
control monkey.
The pot, the scissor, all that shit.
Yeah.
And so then he buys a monkey that he can make perform, and so he feels power because he's powerless right now.
Yeah.
He's got this huge corporation that depends on him to make money. He feels trapped.
Okay, we're looking at this picture right now.
Yeah.
Do you think this was a calculated move that part of the management team came up with?
Well, again, somebody is taking this picture.
Yes.
Unless they set up a tripod and put a camera on it and took this picture. We'll post this on warrenandbradley.com if you want to take a look.
But that's the thing about it, though, right? It's supposed to look like a candid moment.
A candid moment in their private life.
Obviously
he
not.
was working away on his...
Obviously not a candid moment in the private
No.
life, because someone is in the room and he has a shirt off and they're taking pictures of them.
Yeah.
And then they're putting it on the internet.
Who knows if they're even back together? Supposedly they were kissing backstage at a concert in Norway or something like that. But I can imagine his publicist calling up Selena Gomez's publicist. She just had the movie Spring Breakers out, so she probably wants more publicity for the film. Come on over, we'll do a photo op. Bieber, take your shirt off, sit at the computer. It's all completely manufactured. But speaking of Justin Bieber...
Oh, no. What is going on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just clicked on another story for Bieber, and the picture that came up.
He has is that a hard hat with spikes on it? And what's the things coming out of his ears?
That's just the railing behind
That's a railing behind him. Oh, I thought it was a giant earring.
Again, we'll post this picture on warrenandbradley.com.
Paper towels on his shirt? What is that?
Bieber is wearing... I don't think it's a hard hat. I think it's just a baseball cap with the obnoxious straight brim, but he's got all these spikes sticking out of it. He's wearing ridiculous oversized nerd glasses, which I'm sure have no prescription in them. He looks like such a fucking douchebag. I want to break him over my knee. Anyway, the story that this picture is attached to, I don't know what this picture what it has to do with the story at all, but this is from... Oh, boy. This is from Us Magazine. Justin Bieber's tour bus searched by police in Sweden. Drugs and stun gun found.
Ooh.
Bieber was not in the tour bus at the time it was searched. Apparently, they were parked outside of a hotel, the Grand Hotel in Stockholm. And an on-duty police officer was walking by, and he smelled marijuana coming from the vehicle. The door slammed in his face.
Yes.
And so he went to get a search warrant. They got drug-sniffing dogs. By the time the warrant was served, Bieber was performing. He was on stage, and so no one was actually in the bus. They found unidentified drugs, I'm assuming marijuana, if they were smelling marijuana, and a stun gun, which apparently is illegal to have in Sweden without a license. So no arrests were made because they couldn't tie the drugs to anyone. Bieber's representatives say that this story is completely false, that this bus was searched, but nothing was found. And Bieber took to Twitter and said, "Some of the rumors about me, where do people even get this stuff? Whatever, back to music." He's really working hard on the music.
So they're just alleging that this didn't happen at all?
They're alleging it didn't happen at all. I don't know that the Swedes are the ones to plant drugs in Bieber's tour bus, especially if no arrest was made. Why would they pretend that there were drugs in the tour bus?
I like to think of some renegade cops in Sweden that are just trying to shake Bieber down, so they plant drugs in his bus.
There was that crazy detective in England in the 60s who was just constantly going after pop stars in the 60s. He got George Harrison, he got members of the Rolling Stones, he got all these people, and he was planting drugs. I mean, they all had drugs anyway, but he was also planting drugs. I can't remember what his name was, but it was a huge scandal at some point. But no, I don't think that happened in this case. But don't all tour buses have marijuana in them?
Yes.
I would think so.
I'm surprised they weren't going through Texas when this happened.
I know.
That's usually where this goes on.
Now, here's a tragic story. Gwyneth Paltrow feels humiliated after ditching underwear at Iron Man 3 premiere. Here's another picture we'll have to post on warrenandbradley.com. Gwyneth Paltrow walking the red carpet at the Iron Man 3 premiere wearing a weird dress. That's
not a good look. That's going to be in the magazines, and they're going to say that was a failure.
Write a fashion police caption for Gwyneth Paltrow. I don't understand. I mean, I guess we're talking about it. It was in Us Magazine, but...
What happened?
I don't know. I mean, obviously this... we'll describe the dress for people who are too lazy to look on warrenandbradley.com. It's a weird dress that has these nude panels from the waist down on either side. So basically from the side, she is naked.
Yeah.
And from the front, it's almost like a loincloth going down, covering
Yeah.
her genitalia and her a-hole.
So she couldn't wear underwear because you'd see her underwear?
I guess.
And this was humiliating?
Yeah, apparently it was a last-minute decision by her stylist, and Gwyneth Paltrow was unsure about it, and she had to quickly shave her pubic hair before putting on the dress.
What? That's in the story?
I kind of had a disaster. I was doing a show, and I changed there, and I went, I can't wear underwear. I don't think I can tell this story on TV. Well, let's just say everyone went scrambling for a razor. She said this on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Because you
I
can
think her pubic hair went all the way to her hip. I think that was the problem.
I think that was the problem. Have you ever seen... Well, we'll get into that. She also said that she works a 70s vibe normally, and I think that's referring to some sort of giant bush that she has going down there. Yeah.
Unmaintained.
I once saw a girl
Yeah.
in a bathing suit
Okay.
just on the beach. I was probably 12 or 13, and at that time I was often paying a lot of attention to girls I saw in bathing suits.
Formative years, yes.
Formative years. And her pubic hair, she was wearing a modest swimsuit, like a one piece, and it wasn't, high cut or anything. Her pubic hair went from, I mean, I'm assuming it was under where the bathing suit covered as well. But then also, I'm like motioning to my crotch right now.
And I'm like looking at his crotch as he's motioning down at it.
It was all the way down the inner thighs.
Yeah.
All the way up, and it almost wrapped around to the hips. And then it was ridiculous. I could not imagine anyone having that much pubic hair.
Well, if Gwyneth had that situation, she would definitely need to shave it at this point. Because, I mean, you want to be embarrassed. Go wear a skirt or a dress to a premiere and have a bunch of pubic hair on your side.
Yeah. You got to get that bikini line going. Have you ever experienced too much pubic hair on a partner, Warren?
No.
No?
No.
Neither have I. It's usually...
But I mean, how much would have to be too much?
Well...
Like they'd have like a diaper of it on?
What I just described.
Would that really bother you?
Yeah. It wouldn't bother you?
I don't know. I'd probably be okay with it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty tolerant.
If a girl is hairier than me, that's where I draw the line.
But I mean, it doesn't go all the way up to her chest.
What if it does?
If she's completely covered in hair, yes, that would be an issue.
Right. God, everyone should date Warren. Amanda Bynes shaves half her head. This is the new me. I included this story just because we haven't really had much to say about Amanda Bynes lately. She has shaved the sides of her head and now has this weird puff of white hair on the top. And she looks like a freak. Nobody cares. Next story. Lowell Danger, convicted of murder in Spokane shooting.
There's another Lowell?
There's plenty of Lowells.
Oh, so Lowells.
I will also post this picture online. I'm going to show Warren here. Lowell Danger and his posse.
Oh, God. They look like people that would be hanging out in Spokane.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The shooting happened in Spokane.
Shocking.
For those of you not native to Washington, we live in Western Washington, the good part of Washington. Eastern Washington is the crappy, bad part of Washington. The only good thing that comes out of Eastern Washington is apples. And even those are kind of mealy sometimes.
They're not very good apples, no.
Good cherries, though. Rainier cherries. Delicious.
It's the breadbasket of our state.
But apparently the rest of Eastern Washington is filled with gang members, as far as I can tell. These guys look like, I guess they're Hispanic people.
I'll say this. Anytime you're on the West Coast and you go over the mountains, you're going to run into a lot more kind of methy kind of
there's a huge migrant worker population in Eastern Washington picking the apples, picking the cherries.
Okay.
And,
where are you going with this, Brad?
Well, it's not a high income profession.
No, it's not.
It's a migratory sort of profession, and I think it leads to a lot of poverty, which in turn leads to crime, which in turn leads to drug use.
Okay, yeah.
And I guess there is a thriving rap scene in Spokane. A rapper who goes by the name Lowell Danger faces life in prison without parole after his conviction in a shooting that killed another rapper at an after-concert party at a Spokane hotel. John Castro, who I guess is... that's the actual moniker for Lowell Danger, was convicted Thursday of second-degree murder in the November 2011 shooting of 21-year-old Jose A. Jr. Solis, a rapper from Moses Lake. Ooh, another name call from old Eastern Washington there. The 28-year-old Castro has 2 previous convictions for violent crimes and faces a mandatory life sentence as a 3-strike offender. The only reason I really mentioned this story is because it is from Spokane, sort of close to home.
Well, last year the girlfriend and I went to Eastern Washington for a while. We actually stayed in Spokane, and... I just passed through there. I never really spent any time there. There's not, it's kind of a sad place.
Yeah. Last story. I just thought it was kind of strange. Stolen Pulp Fiction car found 19 years later.
Oh, my.
The Chevy Malibu that Vincent Vega drove in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
You know, somebody fucking keyed it.
Yeah.
You know, that whole scene with Lance. Apparently was actually owned by Quentin Tarantino, and it was stolen in 1994. And it has now been found.
So it was actually stolen before the movie? When did the movie come out? 94 or 95?
The movie came out... I'm trying to remember. We were in high school.
Maybe it was 94.
I think it was 94.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was stolen and then turned up in Victorville, California.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Victorville. That's like the Spokane of California.
And apparently the person who owned it was not the thief. I guess he had been defrauded by someone else. And they said, but I don't know if he was aware, ooh, this is the Pulp Fiction car, or if it was just like, ooh, look at this 64 Chevy Malibu.
Yeah, I don't know. But, well, it seems like if you were to say this is the Pulp Fiction car, someone might like type that in the internet and be like, the Pulp Fiction car was stolen many years ago.
Yeah.
You might not want to buy it.
But I just wonder, I guess Tarantino has not commented on this yet, but is he going to have to like go to Victorville and claim his car with like bums have been sleeping in it?
Well, he's probably
going
going to have to take, I just imagine he'd get on the Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
And he'd take it to Victorville.
It does stop in Victorville.
Yeah, and then he would get out and he'd try to get his car and then he'd drive his car back to Los Angeles.
Do you think he cares at all about this Chevy Malibu?
No.
I don't think so either.
If a car was stolen and it's been gone for almost 2 decades, I think you lose your attachment to it at that point. Who knows what's been going on in that car for all these years?
I know.
You know what I mean?
Lots of whores fucking.
Oh, that'd be a great movie, though. Just make a movie of what the adventures of this car.
Yeah.
Like Herbie the Love Bug.
All right. I think that's enough time for Slavery Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
They say things that don't make any sense, and then they do things that make even less sense than the things they said that didn't make any sense. Oh, they want you to buy them fancy jewels, but when you give it to them, they say you're a fool. Whoa, 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 whoa. 'Cause that's how women are.
Haven't heard that in a while, have we, Warren?
No, I didn't hear it at all.
You have to pretend that you can
that's
hear
right.
the bumper music.
Okay, that was a great song.
Oh, my God. It's time for That's How Women Are. We've had That's What Men Are Like
Misogyny
lately.
Moment, I believe it's known as.
No, I think it's called That's How Women Are.
Okay, let's see what happens now.
We had a That's What Men Are Like segment, I don't know how long ago. A while ago, where we were talking about how men aren't as violent as often presupposed.
Yes.
You know, and you agreed with me. Don't pretend, Warren.
I know where this is going.
Well, the other day I witnessed an altercation between a man and his girlfriend. Nothing serious, but he had done something or said something and she was annoyed. And she just started pummeling him.
Yeah.
Just pummeling him as hard as she could. Of course, even though he was a little guy, she was even littler. And she's female. Doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of upper body strength. Did not do much damage to the guy, and he was just like, "Ugh, stop it. What are you doing?" And she was beating on him.
Yeah.
And I guess she worked out her aggression, and she went away, and it was fine. But it made me start thinking about all the times I've seen girls hit men or slap men or smack men. And I was thinking about female friends I have where, I don't know, you'll accidentally trod upon their toe, and they go, "Hey, ugh," and like smack you as hard as they can. And of course, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't matter. And so you don't think of that, oh, you just assaulted me. You're just like, all right, whatever.
But that's the point of it, right? Because it doesn't hurt, so it's not a big deal.
Well, and it's interesting because sometimes they're trying as hard as they can. And I don't know if they're so aware of their power that they realize that it is not something that anyone need fear. And so they just throw it around wildly.
Yeah.
But... And I think we mentioned this in the That's What Men Are Like segment, where men, at least the good ones, are aware of the fact that if they beat somebody, they can do damage.
Okay.
And so you have to control your physical violence a little more. Like if Warren and I were to scrap, one of us, maybe both of us, would not come out unscathed. There'd maybe some blood drawn, there'd be some bruises, some cracked ribs, maybe a damaged rotator cuff. I don't know. Some things would happen and it wouldn't be pretty. If Warren and his girlfriend, well, not if you were to scrap with her, but if she were to beat you, you would come out of it with maybe some tiny little knuckle marks somewhere on you. I don't know. She has little feet. Little feet? Was she kicking you? Little hands.
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know, if the surface area is small.
It's sharp.
Sharp.
Yeah, I'd probably be fine, though.
Maybe just a little more tenderized somewhere.
I'm not super worried about it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I decided I would look online to see if there are any studies to see, because there's always the presupposition that men are more violent than women. And I think there's no question that male violence is much more destructive than women violence and much more dangerous. But are men inherently more violent in tendency than women? And so I looked for some studies, and of course, if you ever want to prove anything, you can find something on the internet that will prove
Nothing
that it's
has
the case.
proved that more than this segment of this show.
Yes. So I looked around and I found some studies. This is actually from the Independent UK. And the study says women are more violent, says study, which is redundant. Bruised and battered husbands have been complaining for years. And now the biggest research project of its kind has proved them right. When it comes to domestic confrontation, women are more violent than men. This was a study based on an analysis of 34,000 men and women by a British academic. And apparently they determined that women lash out more frequently than their husbands or boyfriends, and are also more likely to engage in psychological aggression.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that, probably.
And apparently female aggression tends to involve pushing, slapping, and hurling objects. And also said that men are more likely to injure their partners than the women when the violence erupts, which I think is self-evident. But yeah, it was strange. I think it was out of these 34,000 people who took part in the study, 58% of the people who initiated violence were female.
Okay.
So that was a significant percentage, 8% more than the men. But again,
it all gets back to the consequences of the violence.
Exactly.
You can do any sort of weird behavior you want to. Like, I can sit in my room and punch away at nothing.
Yeah.
And people will be like, that's very violent behavior.
Yeah.
No one's harmed. And it completely doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Some small woman may, like, punch me in the back a few times and it doesn't hurt me.
Right.
Whereas if I turned around and clubbed a woman in the face over and over and over again until she was unconscious, and they could be like, well, she initiated the violence. She punched him in the back.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter.
The proportion of your response far exceeded the violence that was perpetrated upon you.
I will say this. If women were punching all the time and hurting people really badly, they would stop doing that because there'd be a lot of consequences.
I would think so.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter.
But when women punch each other, they hurt each other. But I think they tend to punch men more than
that happens
punch
like
each other.
Bad girls club and stuff.
Remember the crazy girl fights that would happen in high school?
For some reason, I remember in high school, it was only girl fights for the most part. Yeah.
I hardly ever saw men fighting each other.
Men didn't seem interested in fighting each other.
And again, it seems like because, I could really get hurt. If I challenge Warren to a fight, I might lose a tooth, or I might get a fractured skull or something. I don't want to do that. And women, but they would beat the shit out of each other sometimes. There'd be giant clumps of hair and claw marks everywhere.
Yes.
Women can do some damage.
Well, that's the other thing, too. Maybe that's the way we treat violence by women, too, is that I know if I were to see...
cat fight.
Well, a little
Look
bit.
at that cat fight.
Just in the sense that, if I saw two large men, going at each other as passionately and as angrily as I've seen women go at each other, I would do something to, intercede and try to stop it.
Right.
Whereas at the same time, you see these women, pulling each other's hair and screeching and trying to scratch each other and stuff, and you're like, I don't want to get involved.
Oh, how quaint.
Well, it's they're not going to be horribly hurt.
Probably not.
No.
But I think, you know what? As a man, I'm offended by this, because why should women... I'm trying to maintain some sort of sense of outrage here. Why...
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if it's going to work. Why should women be allowed to just give in to their violent urges because there's no consequences? When the violent urge is the same...
No consequences. That's why. Right. You don't have to curb your behavior if there's no consequences to it. Yeah. You can do whatever you want.
It's not going to
work. But
work.
if people are getting hurt...
There's another study that I found where they took a survey of 2,500 college students from the University of Florida and the University of South Carolina. And again, the statistics pretty much match what they had found in the study in England. I think that of people who reported perpetrating physical violence, 32% of them were female, compared to 24% who were male. That doesn't make sense. The percentages don't add up.
Well, not everyone's reporting they initiate violence.
And apparently women were more likely to stalk people than men were. And again, that's
less
the kind
menacing,
of thing.
though.
It is way less menacing. So if you have some girl stalking you, you're like, there's a girl stalking me. Unless it was the Hugh Jackman situation where you get a razor filled with pubic hair thrown at you at the gym. Other than that, you're just kind of like, all right, there's a girl stalking me. When you have a creepy guy stalking you, knowing that the chances of him killing you and skinning you and sewing your skin into some sort of weird woman costume are pretty high. Well,
the first part maybe, but the sewing maybe not so much.
He's insensitive.
Yeah.
It puts the lotion on it. Okay. It's just more frightening. If Warren, if you were to stalk somebody, yeah, it is more dangerous.
If I'm like lurking around some woman's like car at night and like looking in her windows and stuff and calling her at all hours, there go the sunglasses. I'm jerking my head around violently as I'm saying this. That's much more threatening, and there's much more of a potential for violence. Like I might sexually assault this person, or I might beat them or attack them.
You've given this a lot of thought, haven't
you? Or I might fight someone else about it.
Yeah.
Where if some woman's just like lurking around, like looking longingly at your window, it's unlikely that she's going to come in and start like trying to like sexually assault you.
You wouldn't feel unsafe if that were the case.
No, I mean I'm sure this happens occasionally.
I'm sure
right?
a girlfriend would be kind of annoyed by
I just be like, ignore the stalker. I just like pull down the shades and be like, the stalker is going to be staring at us. But yeah, it's not that big a deal. So I mean, you could have 100% more women stalking men than men stalking women. It would still be worse if the men were doing it, because the consequences of the men doing it is much worse.
Right. I mean, my point in bringing this up for That's How Women Are segment was to feign outrage. And try to draw some humor out of that, but I can't even feign outrage about this because who cares? And maybe that is sort of condescending. Maybe that's a sexist viewpoint. Maybe women are like, hey, we can do just as much damage as you men. But it's not true. They're not anywhere near as strong as us.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I know we discussed this at one point earlier, that if a woman is in a relationship, she's being beaten by a man, we get, we like try to resolve that situation. Yeah. And really, if we hear about a man being beaten by a woman,
you start laughing. And laugh.
But I mean, I'm sure that dynamic, there's a horrible dynamic that occurs sometimes.
Yeah.
That needs to be resolved.
Well, and we're talking about broad generalities. I mean, there is the occasional tiny little man and the occasional very powerful woman, and if they get matched up together, I'm sure she could do some damage to her partner. In fact, in one of these studies I was reading, they had mentioned how John Wayne was beaten by his wife at one point. And again, you laugh. And how, who else was it? I need to look this up, actually.
But,
Conchita Martinez.
Wasn't Humphrey Bogart involved?
Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
Humphrey Bogart was beaten by his partner at some point. Abraham Lincoln got his nose broken with a piece of wood by Mary Todd.
But this is the other thing with domestic violence. Mm-hmm. There's this battered woman syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Where they keep going back and they, and people are like trying to break this cycle of abuse.
Yeah.
Does that exist in men?
I don't know. I mean, men make just as many bad decisions in terms of relationships and often have horrible cycles. But again,
if you were that little man and you kept going back to the giant woman who was constantly beating you up and stuff, I don't know if that goes on that much.
I don't know.
It must not.
But it's the same kind of thing. Like, I've known men who are always in these really chaotic relationships where the women do like lash out at them and stuff, but because they're men, nobody would look at that and be like, why does he keep putting himself in that situation where he gets hurt? Because he's not getting hurt. He's living a horrible life. He's surrounded by chaos and is just crazy all the time. But
he's not really looked at it as a victim in that situation. No. It's more like, why don't you just move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to like stop.
Why would you want to be around this person who's insane? But if it were the man who's constantly beating the woman, then yes, the woman has been victimized over and over. Why does she keep putting herself in this position? It's interesting. I guess the only conclusion we can draw from this is...
good. A conclusion.
We're ready to wrap up.
Don't edit that out.
I can't. Isn't that irritating? The only conclusion we can draw from this is women, more violent than men, but nobody gives a shit. And that's how women are?
Yeah, they like to put pretty purple panties on. And then they turn around and tell you that every little bit of thing you've ever done is always wrong. Well, they like to cry when they stub their little toe. But no, they don't cry when they tell you to go. No. Yeah, that's how women are. Yeah, I'm talking about how women are. Whoa, women are.
Okay, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. I was listening to an old classic Loveline episode the other day from like 1996 or something, and Adam Carolla had I don't even know if I could say interesting hypothetical that he asked during the show, and Dr. Drew was not amused by it, but he had several callers tried to answer this question. The question was this, Warren. If you can think of the most repugnant, unattractive member of the opposite sex, you don't have to name any names. Just picture that person in your mind.
Picturing that person.
All right. You got one? I don't know if I could even think of one. Now, would you rather have to have sex with that person, but nobody would ever know that you had, including that person?
Yeah.
Or not have sex with that person, but everyone you knew would be convinced that you had, and there was no way you could ever convince them differently, and she would think that you had as well?
Oh, weird.
It's weird.
It's mind-blowing, really.
It is mind-blowing.
I'm usually a person that doesn't care about what people think of me. Mm-hmm. I'll just go along. But I think in this situation, I might just have sex with the person.
Really?
Just because it's a short-term inconvenience. It's like taking your medicine, right?
Is it just an inconvenience, or... Because
it's gross,
I've never had sex with anyone who... I mean, maybe on an emotional level, or maybe...
was repugnant?
Yeah, or maybe
morally and ethically repugnant?
Perhaps. Or maybe just really annoying.
But not physically repugnant.
But I've never had sex with anyone who I was like, by just their appearance.
Why would you have sex with that person?
Some men are just like, fuck it, you know? They'll just have sex with anything.
So to speak, yeah.
Well, yeah. Isn't this weird? There's this weird male thing where... It doesn't matter. It's what we've talked about before. When men get thrown in prison, they're like, well, I got to fuck something. I'm going to fuck this little Puerto Rican guy. You don't have to. But some men are of that opinion, like, well, I got to have sex. So there's this horribly unattractive woman, and just the fact that she's willing to have sex with them, they're like, well, it's sex. Sex is sex. Sex is sex. Sex is not sex if it's with somebody who's horribly unattractive. Anyway, that's always been my opinion. And my track record has been pretty damn good for the most part. So I have never experienced, the bearded woman or some, just horribly disgusting female that I've actually had to like touch the flesh and fornicate with this person. So it's hard for me to imagine if I could even have sex with that person.
That would be my concern, right?
Yeah. Could you perform sexually?
I wouldn't think so. Because one thing to have sex with someone that you're not necessarily attracted to, but is also like, you don't care either way. Yeah. It's another thing to try to have sex with someone who's actually repulsive.
Who's actively repulsive, yeah.
That's like harder than having sex with nothing.
There are people who I could see them walking by and I'd go and involuntarily shudder.
Yeah.
And it's not me. I'm not consciously trying to insult them. I mean, obviously I don't say anything to this person, but it's just it's an instant reaction, completely divorced from my higher brain functions. I just go, oh God. And if I had to fornicate with that person, and I'm assuming there's probably odor involved and lots of body hair, maybe sweaty skin folds and things like that. I don't know if I could do it because
it's a bad thing. Okay, let's get back to it. That part is bad.
Yeah.
But then if you decide not to have sex with a person, where everyone's just convinced.
I know.
You did something with this person.
Wow.
And that's, people just talk about it and people laugh about it.
They would laugh.
And everyone, any woman that might be interested in you, someone else is like, well, you see that troll over there? He had sex with that troll. That's
one of the main arguments for actually having sex with the person, because women, I think even more than men, will judge you by the people who you have been with in the past. If girls see you out with somebody who's really attractive, someone they think is attractive, they're like, well, if he can get that girl, even if you're ugly as fuck, if you're with a really hot girl, well, there must be something about him, or this really hot girl wouldn't be with this person. But if they see the troll doll and you had sex with her, even if you didn't really have sex, but everyone's convinced that you had sex, then they'll be like, okay, this guy's fucked. I don't want to have anything to do with him. He had sex with the troll doll.
Okay, I'm going to turn this hypothetical around and blow your fucking mind.
Do it.
Okay, let's say, on the one hand, you can horribly and violently beat someone, and they're horribly injured and in a lot of pain, and no one knows about it, and everyone just thinks that person was in an accident.
And even the person who's beaten.
Even the people who were beaten just thought they were in an accident, and they're still in pain, and it was horrible and everything, but no one thinks any ill of you or anything.
Right.
Or you can not beat that person.
And everyone thinks you did.
And have everyone think... And have that person be fine, but have everyone else think that you did something awful.
Would there be legal ramifications? Would you be arrested for
Okay,
assault?
well, first we'll go without legal ramifications.
Wow.
So actually, what you're doing at this point
and is this somebody who would be within our social circle? It'd be somebody who your friends would know?
No,
or
just
be a stranger?
any regular, a normal person.
So if it's a stranger and no one who I know knows this person, and they're like, I heard you beat the shit out of this guy, I could lie to them and say, well, he attacked me with a knife.
No, this is the thing about it. The hypothetical is people think you just beat that person.
Okay.
You just beat this poor woman.
A woman?
Yeah, it's a woman.
Oh.
You beat this poor woman because she wouldn't have sex with you. Everyone thinks it's true. Everyone's sure it's true.
Well, that would be way more damaging than having everyone think that I had sex with an ugly woman. And so, but then I would be forced to beat a woman?
The other option is you would have to actually beat the woman.
There's no good option here.
What are you going to do?
I couldn't beat a woman, but then at the same time, I would hate people thinking that I had.
Yeah.
People probably do think I have.
But this gets back to it. It's like, you can do the right thing. And the right thing for you to do is not beat the woman.
Yeah, and take the consequences.
But be shamed for the rest of your life because you saved this person a beating. Or you could beat this woman and just like have no consequences whatsoever.
Would the person beaten, would they have to be beaten to such an extent that they had physical problems for the rest of their lives?
They'd kind of limp around, back issues, a lot of reconstructive surgery. It's a bad beating.
I would say right now, I could not violently assault a woman in that way. There's just no way I could will myself up to do it.
Yeah, you have to not do the beating, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is you would always know you would beat this woman to save yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way I could do it. What about you?
No, I wouldn't. You can't do it. But I think that's the thing where it's like you go back a level and you take having sex with the ugly person is like sort of outside the realm of any consequence for anyone else, really. It's just you having to do something gross or you having to live with like shame for years. Yeah. And I think doing something gross for a little bit is better than having these long consequences for years.
Okay, I'll say right now, if I could do it, if I could get myself to perform, then I would have sex with the ugly woman. And you would as well?
Yeah.
I think this was Adam Carolla's theory when he was first posing this question back in 1996 on Classic Loveline. Yeah. That men were much more likely to say that they would than women. Yeah. Do you agree with that statement?
Probably.
Because women are like, ew, a gross guy, no way. But men will be like, yeah, I guess.
Okay, this is the thing. I think men are more likely to say they'd have sex with a gross woman, and women are more likely to say they wouldn't have sex with a gross man. But I think if it actually occurred, I think the women would definitely have sex with a gross man, and I think the men might wuss out on having sex with a gross woman.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if you are a listener and you've had sex with a gross man or a gross woman, and everyone knows about it or nobody knows about it, write to podcast at warrenandbradley.com. Let's answer this question. Let's see if we can get some sort of gender gap going between the answers
We'll
here.
keep your answers anonymous.
All right, so that was the experiment, the uncut live, well, not live, sort of live version of the Warren and Bradley show. We could live stream, I guess, but I'm not going to. Why would we want to?
Yeah, that'd be weird.
It's hard enough to get people to download the show. We're not going to have it. Tune in at 9 o'clock Pacific time. That's not going to happen. So, that's enough time for the Warren and Bradley show this week. I've been one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I've been your other host, Warren Mann.
Saying,
keep it raw.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast at warrenandbradley.com. The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some raw magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
It is episode 74 of the Warren and Bradley Show.
Are we doing that again?
Coming at you raw and uncut. This is actually a little bit different Warren and Bradley Show episode. I don't know how much I've talked about this in the past, but to give you a little inside baseball on the way the show is made, Warren and I did not plan much before an episode. I would go through, I'd look for celebrity news, and, you know, throughout the week I'd write things down on my little notepad on my iPhone so I'd know things that I wanted to talk about, and if I had a street freak or some sort of segment that we wanted to bring up, and Warren would have something he'd want to talk about, but it was sort of freewheeling, freestyling, seat of the pants kind of thing. And so we would record and we would get, I don't know, maybe 70, 80 minutes, depending. And then I would go through and painstakingly edit every single thing. I would take out any long, awkward pause in the conversation, any parts of us like, I would even, to be helpful to Warren, try to take out some of the likes that he would insert into his conversation, even though I couldn't get all of them. And I don't think I'm quite as bad as saying like as you are, but I'm pretty bad myself. I would go through and take every segment, and I'd have to trim it for length. I would trim it to make us sound like less idiotic, like see, and I'm not going to edit this out now. And then it would take me hours and hours and hours, hours and hours to do this every week.
During that time, I would be doing something else.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about the show at all.
Watching the NCAA tournament or something.
Yeah.
And so I started to get a little burnt out on it.
Yeah.
And so now what we're going to try to do is to be uncensored and uncut. Basically, we're just going to be talking as usual, but we're going to try to pay a little more attention to segment breaks, to the length of segments. We're going to try to stay focused more. And all I'm going to do is I might still be trimming for length a little bit, but I'm not going to edit anything in the middle. Everything you hear is what was actually said.
Oh, it's nerve-wracking. It's almost like being live.
It is kind of live, and I was always a little worried about it because we're not professional broadcasters.
What?
Well, I didn't study communication in college. I don't think you did either.
Although you've become quite the expert at editing audio.
I can edit audio well, actually.
Yeah. You developed a skill.
But now I've just thrown that skill out the window because I don't need it for the show anymore. So.
Well, last week after we recorded, you looked a little downcast.
Yeah.
And you looked at me and you're like, maybe we should just stop doing the show.
I was going through a dark period, and I was thinking, for the amount of work I was putting into it,
you looked really sad.
It seemed kind of like a thankless task a little bit, but I think this way it's gonna be a lot easier for me to edit the shows and get them posted, and it'll stop being a chore and just more of a fun thing, because I like sitting here every week.
It's nice to have a nice conversation.
It's good. I need some sort of social interaction with people.
Yeah, you don't really get out much.
No, I didn't go out at all this weekend again. I just stayed at home.
Yeah.
I had a tragedy in my Minecraft world.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Oh my God. So I wasn't able to record my newest episode of Minecraft, so I was trying to... There was a big... About the fucking Beatles when I was in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're going to be a mechanical engineer or something like that, most of what you learn in college is completely pointless.
But I definitely, if I were going to go back to college, I would definitely learn something useful. Would you?
A skill, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have all this energy that you're, like, pouring into these things, like, productive energy, just think if you had, like...
I know. But see, that's what I can't seem to figure out is how to force myself to pour that energy, because I can be insanely focused and detail-oriented and really hard on myself, but I don't apply that to anything that actually matters.
Yes.
Yes.
You can channel that energy into something productive. Are you still doing your, like, push-up and sit-up regimen?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
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 That's sort of productive, right?
I guess. And that, again, but it's also another thing that doesn't really matter that much. It's not like during the summer I'm going to be hanging out on the glorious beaches in Bellingham and like paparazzi snapping pictures. Ooh, look at Brad's beach body. That's not going to happen.
Maybe it's good for your health, though.
Yeah, I guess.
If you look in the mirror, is there a noticeable difference?
Yeah.
You look like muscly and stuff?
I'm ropey, wiry, you might say.
And without that sort of workout regimen, you're just scrawny?
Well, I've always been thin, and I've been...
Thin and slack, maybe?
No, I mean, because my job is physically demanding, and so I've always been wiry, I guess you would say. But I didn't really have a man chest before. Now I've got a bit of a man chest going on. Yeah.
Oh, so it's not just flat. You have, like, pectorals?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And my stomach is still starting to, like, bulge out a little bit.
Oh, like your six-pack?
Yeah. I still need to starve myself so I have no body fat at all. That's the next thing. But I was noticing, I don't know, I mean, I could talk about this for a long time. I don't know if you really want to talk about this, but I was noticing when I had done my little regimen the other day.
Did something happen within the game? Like some zombie sheep attacked you or something?
I lost a lot of my booty, and it was hard to booty.
Did another player, like, come into your game and steal it?
No, I fell in lava.
You fell in lava?
Yeah. After hours and hours of trying to mine quartz ore, for those of you who are new.
So the mining of quartz ore is just you doing one repetitive thing over and over and over again?
Well,
like hitting the mine quartz ore button?
We don't want to get too much into this, but if you want to get the real details, you can go watch the Bradcraft channel on YouTube. But basically, there is a alternate dimension called the Nether in Minecraft. Yeah. And there are certain ores that can only be gained by going to the Nether. And the Nether is a very dangerous place filled with like zombie pigmen and floating gas bags.
Is this like underground?
It's a different dimension, but it looks kind of
underground. Holy crap, I didn't know about
Yeah.
this element. Wow.
Yeah. You have to go through a weird little portal and everything. And there's lava everywhere. And basically, I had journeyed for forever in the Nether, gathering this quartz that I need to complete my mansion that I'm making in my Let's Play series. Yeah. And I had stacks and stacks of it. I had all my fancy diamond enchanted tools that I was using that took forever to get those and to gaining levels so I could enchant these things. And then at the very end, as I was about to go home, I had all the quartz I needed. And I was climbing this ladder, and I peeked my head up, and a skeleton went, ha-ha, and shot me, and I fell just half a mile into a thing of lava, and I couldn't
survive that.
I couldn't survive that. And then when you die, all your inventory scatters everywhere, but since it was in lava, it all burnt up.
That's brutal.
It was horrible.
I want to make sure when you're playing this game, though, I don't want this to turn the same thing that the podcast apparently turned into, which is just like labor-intensive time
I
in
turn
front of a
everything
screen
into that, Warren.
you don't enjoy. Are you still enjoying the game?
I do, but then, it was the kind of thing where this happened, and I was like, I freaked out. My little brother was online with me at the time. We were playing on our server together, and I went into this litany of cursing that I think my poor innocent little brother has never heard the like in his entire life. And then I was just like, ugh, and just turned the game off. I had to go have a stiff drink and sort of get myself together.
Did you really? Did you pour? Okay.
No.
So I pictured you like going to the like window and looking out over Bumtown and like pouring some whiskey in a shot glass.
Wearing
and, like,
my wife beater. Yeah. No, I don't actually keep any alcohol in my house. But anyway, I was severely deflated and did not even feel like playing the game ever again. But then I'm I'm required to do so because I do these Let's Play videos. But again, nobody watches the Let's Play videos, so I'm not actually required.
You're not. I want to emphasize that to you.
The only
You're
thing
not
that
actually
requires
required.
me is me thinking that I'm required. It's the same thing I do with everything. With the podcast, I didn't have to go and edit through every single little thing.
Yes.
But I make myself do it because in my mind that makes it better, but I don't think anyone cares. Nobody notices. Nobody gives a shit but me.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. And I'm
Yeah.
just trying to let things go a little bit. Just be like, okay, Warren paused there. I said, I'm going to leave that in. That's fine.
Yes.
Nobody notices but me. It's okay.
Yeah. And make sure you rechannel that energy or take that time and do something you enjoy.
Yeah. Well, see, these are things...
Initially, they're rewarding, right?
These are things that I enjoy, but then everything I enjoy, I turn into a
job.
task.
Yeah.
And it's this weird perfectionist thing that doesn't penetrate every aspect of my life.
No.
I don't know why. If I could
Like your professional
apply
life.
that to other things, yeah, it might actually be of benefit instead of things that don't matter at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to some people at work about that, about our experiences in school and in college and whatnot.
Yeah.
And how everything I learned in college was completely useless, but I found interesting.
Yeah.
And other people, of course, I work with like medical professionals, and they had always, taken all these classes they weren't terribly interested in, but
They were useful.
They were useful. Like they learned something in college, and they still apply that to what they do every single day.
I took a class about